Hello folks, this is Chris, KY4CKP. Well, today we're going to take a ride on a magic carpet. That's what's coming up next on LCARA Ham Radio. You know, a magic carpet would be a lot of fun, I'm sure, but that's not really the kind of magic carpet we're talking about today, folks. We're going to be talking about something that some hams figured out really some years ago, and it turns out that it can work quite well, and so they cleverly called it the magic carpet. Now, what we're talking about are using metallic window screen material. I know you can find aluminum, you can find stainless steel, and using that as a mesh on the ground for the ground plane for certain kinds of antennas. And so again, some smart folks figured this out, and I just heard about it and really kind of entered my consciousness here fairly recently. So I ordered some window screen. We're going to talk about all the components I was using for my testing here in a second, and we're going to check this out. So it's really simple. You get some screen. I decided to get two sections and lay it out. I drove a pipe in the ground and connected my ATOS 120A antenna, which can be really finicky about having good grounding and being able to tune and set it up. And I've been playing with it for the past 2 or 3 weeks. So what are the components that I've got set up and that I'm using for this testing? Well, here at the shack, I do have an ATOS 120A antenna, which I really like, the ATOS. I've got one on my truck, and this is actually a second one that I bought to use with my wife's car for certain occasions. And, it's not that it's the greatest antenna in the world, but it works so nicely with Yaesu radios that can directly connect and tune it. I also have the 2 meter 70 centimeter radials. They can go with the ATOS. I don't really use that much, but I do have that in case I want to play with that. So we've got that going. And then what are some of the other components we have? Well, I bought a mount so I can mount it to the black iron pipe that I drove into the ground. I drove the pipe into the ground about 18 inches. And I've got this mount. Now this mount happened to be an NMO, and the ATOS is an NMO. So I bought an NMO adapter to go on there just from Tram. Again, just some really kind of quick and dirty, easy to get a hold of components, so that I could put this together and do some testing and see if I was going to get really anything out of it at all. So we've got the NMO. I've also got 125 feet of LMR 400 marine grade, which is extra UV resistant. So I've got that running from my backyard around to the front of the house where my shack is. And then I also bought some alligator clip test leads. These are great to have around if you're ever doing any kind of work with a multimeter and things like that. These are just really great. It seems like I can never have enough of these. So I bought some fairly long ones. And they're not the really fine ones. They're a little bit heavier duty than the kind of extra fine you can get. Now in my shack here, my base radio is an FTDX 10, so that's what I'm using as the radio. Didn't really sort of mean to, but I've kind of become a Yaesu person. Although I do have an ICOM 5100A in my truck. I've also got the Yaesu FP 1030A power supply that I have a video on and did some mods to with that. And so far, it's been a very nice and quiet power supply. I had some other power supplies that were decent enough quality, but they were noisy on some of the bands. And so we just put this out. Again, drove the pipe in the ground, mounted the mount on there so I could just screw on the ATOS. Just put some rocks on the screen just to kind of help hold it on the ground, and I went ahead and connected a whole bunch of those alligator test lead clips. Now I've seen people work with this and make one connection from the antenna to the screen and things like that. I decided to make several up and down the sides of that just to see. I don't know if that makes it necessarily any better or any worse, but it does work. So maybe in this case, more is better, if not a negative anyway. And you can see it's been out there for 2 or 3 weeks. I actually need to move it, so I can mow around. The grass is relentless, of course, this time of year in Kentucky. But I can tell you, it is working. It does let me tune the ATOS. In fact, here's just a short snippet of tuning the ATOS on 20 meters. Now, what I have found out with this, and this is also my experience running this for several years now in my vehicles and on my current truck, the ATOS can be just a little bit cranky anyway. My current truck configuration has worked very well, but in my previous vehicles, it was a little bit cranky. So we're going to bring in some additional footage here, and we'll bring you folks right back. All right, so here we're just rolling some footage in the background where I was doing some testing, and so I just figured, well, let's just do some testing on all the bands that the ATOS supports, and that's 40 meters to 6 meters, and again, you can have the potential to do 2 meters and 70 centimeters. I didn't try to test those for this particular example, but I wanted to check out 40, 20, 17, 15, 12, 10, and 6. Now, what I found out was most of the bands tune pretty well. I can get between anywhere from 1 to 3 SWR. They all tuned to 3 or less, but usually I was able to get 1.5 to 2, 2.5 on this for most of the bands, with 2 exceptions. 12 meters was being pretty cranky. I tested on 2 different days, and it got a little bit better on the second day. And 6 meters I couldn't get to tune at all. I have tuned 6 meters in my truck and things. So for this particular setup, it wasn't bringing the SWR down far enough to get 6 meters to come in. But by and large, I think most of the other bands could have been usable. Again, I need to take this up, trim the grass and stuff, get it maybe a little flatter on the ground again, and maybe do some further testing. But as other hams have figured out, this can and does work. And so one of the areas I know that I've seen some folks use this and get really good results is when they're working portable. If you like to go and do parks on the air, maybe even summits on the air, this could be a lightweight and organized way to set up your antenna, because I know when I've done some of those kinds of things, and I've been using regular wire for ground radials and things. Depending on your wire choice, that can be a bit of a pain and a little bit tougher to keep organized and so forth. But with the window screen, I think overall a lot simpler and easier to work with. So again, what are the results of the experiment, the test? It does work. It does work. It does seem to work pretty well. Like everything else, it can vary on what exactly is the ground you're going to put it on, what are the conditions, and some things like that. But if it can have almost any level of success with the ATOS, being that it can be a little bit of a cranky system at times, I figured this again, and as I've seen with some other hams, can really work well with some other antenna systems. So that's really pretty much it, folks. We're going to start wrapping this one up. Go out there and watch various channels, videos on whatever your interests are. But of course, a lot of us are going to have ham radio interests as one thing. See what other people are doing. There's a lot of smart and clever folks, especially in the ham radio world, and you never know where there could be a really nice solution to a problem you're having. Somebody's already run into that and already figured it out, or just something new and fun and cool to test and to play with, and that kind of thing. So it never hurts to keep your eyes open and hopefully be on a lifelong journey of learning and experiencing things. So we'll wrap it up. This is Chris, KY4CKP for Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association, We'll see you folks in the next video. 73.